Welcome to Phil and Bob's Treehouse.
Central Park trees covered in snow. Over the Hudson, the sunset glow. The smell of her love and jasmine rice. A creep on the corner, don't look so nice. Now he's pooping, why I don't know. Life's full of mysteries, now it's time for the show.
Hi, I'm Phil.
Hi, I'm Bob.
We live in New York City, home to the highlights, the lowlifes, and everything in between. This is our take on the human carnival.
Funding for this podcast is generously provided by Invigorizify. Brought to you by the makers of Ritalin, Adderall, Viagra, and Minoxidil, Invigorizify treats laziness not attributable to depression, narcolepsy, or generalized ennui and/or anomie. Don't take Invigorizify if you've had a previous adverse reaction to cocaine. Invigorizify. There's a life beyond your couch. All right. Episode 10. We fucking hit the big time. Big Pharma is advertising with us now.
I was about to say Big Pharma.
Yes. Invigorizify. Go out
Wow.
there, talk to your doctor about it.
We're in the world of psych drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that.
No judgments, man.
No.
They paid us. We read the ad. Try it if you need it. Hats off to them. They're really pushing the envelope here. I think that the only warning they give is that don't take it if you've had an adverse reaction to cocaine. So that might be something to discuss with your doctor.
Right. If you're doing cocaine all the time, don't they go out and socialize at clubs and stuff? Or maybe that's to relieve
It's
your
a mask.
alienation.
Yeah, it's a temporary salve.
It covers the pain.
It covers the pain. It's self-medication. Cocaine is self-medication.
Right.
Alcohol, the biggest self-medicator,
Yes.
and it's socially acceptable.
Right.
You see these guys that knock back 10 drinks a night, and they look at you, you take one puff of a cigarette or
Right.
a vape device, God forbid, and they're like, you're putting poison in your body. Okay, let's compare livers, you know?
Well, it's kind of odd actually because this dovetails with our theme this week, our sponsor actually.
And this is going to be a very special episode. We are going to take a dive into the world of psychiatry?
It's
mental health.
It's a mental health episode.
And before you start, by very special episode, I'm using that in a specific sociocultural context, and that is the 80s sitcoms that we grew up on. When they announced that it was a very special episode, it was going to be a serious, even though it was a comedy, it was going to be a serious episode, like when Dudley got child molested on Different Strokes,
Right.
or when Tootsie on Facts of Life
Yeah.
wrote that paper when she was high on marijuana. So today is going to be a very special episode centered on mental health. You've got some great insights and some personal experiences as well that you're going to share
Sure.
and open up to us
Sure.
about. So with that,
When I was a child, I would say about 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I believe this was initiated because I was acting up in school. That's my recollection, which is...
It was just a cry for help, probably.
In hindsight, it was just normal. However, my parents, they both are fervent believers in psychoanalysis.
Yep.
Not just like go talk to a therapist, but like psychoanalysis.
Yes.
Like Freud.
So at that age,
Yeah.
I think that would roughly coincide with the early 80s, which is essentially really the 70s culturally.
right.
And from what I understand,
Yeah.
based on documentaries, that was sort of in vogue. Like everybody was
You think?
they were all like into analyzing yourself and self-help movements and psychoanalysis.
Yeah.
But go on.
Well, so they found me this a doctor. And like I remember, I would go in on Fridays. I went to a little sports group after school. They would get you in a van and drive to Randall's Island more often, and then come back. And instead of dropping me off like all the other kids at their apartment,
Yeah.
they would drop me off in front of the like shrink's office for my Friday at 6 p.m. Appointment. The thing about it is that what is a 10-year-old going to gain, in my view, from going to a strict Freudian psychoanalyst? But basically, it was an enormous waste of time in retrospect, and I didn't want to be there. So that began my relationship with this same doctor through high school, basically.
Wait, so from like 9 or 10 till
Through I left for
through
college.
18?
But and it's my fault also because like I went along with the program kind of.
Yeah.
Like I did other stuff after school. Like I would go to soccer practice and then go to this guy's. I was experiencing many problems. Okay.
Yeah.
In school, out of
Yeah.
school with a lot of obsessive compulsive disorders.
Okay.
And so like things would take me very long time to do because of like counting numbers and stuff like that in my head.
Well, I mean, sincerely, I think that's pretty brave to share.
Thank you. But I think that's.
But did they even know what that was back then?
No, and that's
because
another
now
thing.
Everybody says it on TV.
I know. That's the other thing.
Wait, you did OCD before it was cool.
I'm an innovator.
You are.
But the thing is that, so people know about that kind of stuff. But back then, I think they were like, we're going to treat this with a Freudian method.
By Freudian, you mean like talk therapy. And,
that's the idea.
And you talk about, but the focus is on like sexuality or like family relations.
Not that I remember. I just remember going to his office and just playing with baseball cards. And I think maybe that's what you're supposed to do. And then in between, he's
probably
trying to...
he was probably like looking at you like, subject has put his hands on his lap, suggesting sexual arousal. Right?
So I think maybe he was sort of like analyzing me. I don't remember. Maybe we would tell jokes, and then he would sneak in a few. So
how do you feel about your mother? But you also wouldn't remember necessarily what he was,
But I had such bad obsessive compulsive disorder. Yeah. So it would take me like 45 minutes to get there. Because to walk 8 blocks, because I would be walking around the block 4 times. Like I just was counting stuff all the time.
You didn't share that with your parents?
I didn't share it with anybody. Mental health is a stigmatic, is that the right word? Stigmatic.
Yes. But now it's not. People throw OCD around in conversation. Don't you think like if you had it and it exists now, like there probably were a lot of people that had it. It was not a diagnosis?
No, it was not a diagnosis. And if you look at the DSM back then, no, it didn't exist. So what they did, they would say the answer is buried somewhere.
In your mother's nipple. Yeah.
So like I would go and he'd pull out the book, like the little notepad.
Yeah.
And a few pleasantries, and then I guess and we would sit in silence for like 10 minutes because I have nothing to say to say. After a while, you get a sense of what they want to hear.
Yeah.
So it's like, I had a dream. And then instantly, like he whips the pen out, and it's just, he gets all excited.
That is the element of Freudian analysis that I think that people like to make fun of, right? Like everything it's all about slips of the tongue and Oedipal complex, right? And
I mean, and I just think, especially with something like that, it was completely they missed the boat. Yeah. Maybe it was before people knew about or paid attention to this. This person that I saw as a child, he was the New York Psychoanalytic Institute, which is like this. It's a big brownstone on the Upper East Side, and so he was on the board or something. Yeah. It's one of these places that like Freud's disciples came to and founded in New York. It was like the biggest institute of the time, and so they all followed this, and it still exists.
Yeah, it was probably like you had like a hot ticket. Like everyone's like at the cocktail party. It's like, oh, back then where it was in vogue to like improve your self-actualization by doing analysis.
I guess. I mean,
but treating an actual disorder, I think maybe not the best approach.
I have a sense that a lot of it has been kind of discredited with time. I also have a kind of fascination with things happen far away that affect someone from great distances. Yeah. So like this guy is sitting in like Vienna in 1910 and coming up with these theories based on essentially anecdotal evidence from his practice.
Upper class Viennese housewives, right?
Right. Yeah. From his practice. Yeah. He's coming and then he's developing theories in writing. Yeah. And then 100 years later,
it's like some little kid in Manhattan.
I'm going to some guy on 74th Street.
Yeah. It's the power of ideas, and literally ideas and theories, they have ripple effects across oceans and across time.
Yeah. I think he also was he probably was a good marketer. I think he was like the original like self-help person. And self-help is like junk science, right?
Generally, I think so. I mean, but like Deepak Chopra.
Yeah, what is that?
Dr. Oz.
But what's the difference between Freud in Vienna in 1900?
Dr. Phil.
Not this Phil. No, and pick your self-help person. Like writing books, advising people on what to do based on their non-scientific experience.
I agree with you, but I think some of it has to do with branding, but he seemed very confident in what he was saying, just really grand, like sweeping generalizations and statements.
That's what, on YouTube, I looked up, there's only one existing recording of him, but then I saw an interview with Carl Jung. He said on the YouTube thing that they were different because Freud was just very convinced that he's right about everything all the time.
Like the megachurch pastors, Hillsong Church or whatever. That's a cult. They're all cults.
Plus, I think that also, if you read any of Freud, a lot of it is just case studies, and he does use like initials, and a lot of it is anonymous.
Yeah.
It's like, Miss M came to my office.
She dreamt about her dad's banana. It's always like that, right?
But I think either he named people or it's just come to be known, common knowledge, who patients were.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a massive violation of the doctor-patient relationship. And I actually was a victim of that.
You were?
Yes.
This is great.
So among the other folks I saw another psychopharmacologist.
Yeah.
This motherfucker, he was legitimately just an asshole. And he's like, daughter is doing like a study. She's a student at like med school somewhere.
Yeah.
You mind to go talk? I put her in touch with you. He gave her my name.
Yeah.
She was doing some kind of a questionnaire for a postdoctoral thesis, which is a violation of the. You're not supposed to say who. And Freud did that all the time. So anyway, a couple other examples, if you want to know, for the reasons why I went to these people. It was anxiety disorders and things.
Yeah.
This lasted in college.
Yeah.
And then
surprisingly, when I knew you in college, I didn't know any of this. I mean, because in college, if you're different or like you do wacky things, it's like, oh, he's fun. It's at college. Like the time we just walked by you at it was like 4 a.m. and you're outside the Crimson, and Jason saw you with a lighter, like
I don't remember that,
setting fire to like a poster like that was like taped to the lamppost.
That I don't think that was real. That might have been just maybe I was
just vandalism.
Vandalizing.
Yeah.
Things.
Okay.
Homework in they would give me a paper to write. And I'd go sit in the library. It would take me hours to read like a page.
Yeah.
Because it was just I was repeating repetitive reading over and over again. It's amazing that I got things submitted, things on time.
And you would think like now, like if you have that, like you would have so many resources and like extra time.
No,
and,
my son is in 9th grade, and there's kids. I think it's abused, but there's kids who are, there's like at least like 5 or 6 kids that he knows of. They get extra time on tests and stuff. Because they claim that they have. Yeah. I mean, I should have had like a extra year, but nonetheless.
It sounds like you had it pretty bad then.
No, it was terrible.
I actually know someone who's diagnosed with it now.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as bad as what you're describing. I guess there's degrees of it.
No, I mean it's terrible. It's enormous waste of like mental energy. I don't know what works, to be honest, when people go in for help. But like knowing what your dream means.
Yeah.
Is going to do anything for your daily life. I actually pulled out a quotation from Freud.
Okay.
And I was going to read it as an example but you're better at reading stuff.
No one who has seen a baby sinking back satiated from the breast and falling asleep with flushed cheeks and a blissful smile can escape the reflection that this picture persists as a prototype of the expression of sexual satisfaction in later life.
Yeah.
This does not seem to pertain to compulsions.
No, I mean, what is it? Okay,
or like debilitating obsession. Yeah, it's because you weren't breastfed.
Do you think that's what it is?
I don't know. I don't know your breastfeeding status, so I'm not going to speculate. Shout out Mrs. Rubin. So at a point now to be able to talk about it sounds like you must be in a good place.
Well, I mean, when you get older, at some point, it's just you give up.
So you've started masturbating on the train. You're just like, if I don't masturbate on the train, it's gonna blow up. Just let me finish. We're just kidding here. The OCD is very, very serious disease, and this is a very special episode. Okay.
We were on Freud as the original self-help shyster. Is a shyster like a?
Does that have like a?
Is that a money thing?
I thought a shyster's a lawyer or like someone. Who's like very slippery,
shyster.
Like
I'm gonna read you like 3 titles. All right. From I went to the bookstore, McNally Jackson. Big section on this stuff, and you can tell me your reaction.
Okay.
Okay. So book 1.
Yep.
Is called "You Are a Badass."
Pass.
Pass, yeah.
That sounds like someone going through a divorce needs self-affirmation. Girl, you're a badass. Sorry, go on.
The bio of the author, the first line said she's a success coach.
I knew it was a woman, but go on.
Yeah, it's oftentimes. Oh, one of the chapters is called Appreciate How Special You Are. Another one is Drown Yourself in Affirmations. What do you make of that? Bad advice, I mean. If you buy that book for $18.
No.
Like, how does that...
You're better off spending that $18 on Invigorizify.
I mean, self-help is an easy target, but it's a big market and people buy this shit. Another pet peeve I have about self-help books is that the writing is terrible. And I guess it's not there for to be literature.
Yeah.
I'll read a quote from You Are a Badass.
Yeah.
Okay. We're so deeply wrapped up in our stories. I don't know enough. I can't quit my job. I'm lazy. I have bad hair. Trudging through life with our heads down, clinging to our false beliefs, like lifeboats full of doo-doo, that we prevent ourselves from seeing the literally infinite sea of possibilities and opportunities. What's your take?
The author has said everything and nothing at the same time. That's my view. Right? It's just like right?
This is 250 pages of that.
I know.
Okay.
It's kind of sad. It's like they're preying on people who are obviously either depressed or going through something tough.
Right. I mean, I'm not the first person to observe that this field is kind of bogus.
Yeah.
But anyway, book two is called Be the Love by Sarah Prout. And her bio says podcast host and manifestation mentor, which I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah.
Do you know what that means?
Manifestation mentor?
Yeah, what is that?
It's shyster. He's like a con artist.
And book three, actually, it was been reviewed in the Times, and it got a very bad review in the Sunday Times.
Yeah.
Which is unusual. Most of them are pretty good.
No such thing as bad press.
Yeah, sure. It's called Bittersweet by Susan Cain. In her bio, it says she's been named one of the top influencers by LinkedIn, and her TED Talk on the power of introverts has been viewed over 40 million times. And so, yeah, that's her bio. At some point, a degree in this stuff was what you would put in your bio, but now it's
now it's
your TED Talk on introverts.
And your downloads.
These people have no leg to stand, no authority.
But should there be credentials?
I don't know.
They're just living life. It's this works for me, right?
Right.
But it's you're right. It's a pool of sample size of one.
Right.
You're do you want to have success? Do what I do.
Yeah. Right, but the works for me motivation, the works for me thing is just junk too, I guess.
You don't want to judge people who are looking for a lifeline or just looking for some direction. People want direction.
Yeah.
I've never bought self-help books.
Yeah.
And I'm clearly not going to open myself up the way you have.
Right.
But when I was going through the divorce, my divorce, a while back, I did buy a book called Stumbling on Happiness.
Right.
This guy, I think it's Dan Gilbert. He's a professor of psychology at Harvard.
Right.
And that was my way of saying I'm not going to read one of these charlatan books, but here's a guy who has a degree from Harvard.
Yeah.
And he just sort of used data and studies to figure out ways that give you clues or hints or at least some evidence of ways in which you can structure your life or approach life to maximize what we call happiness.
Was it advice on how to improve your life yourself, do stuff, or was it just
it wasn't specific instruction, but what sort of types of decision-making strategies were found to cause the most real satisfaction according to these surveys that social scientists do. Years later down the road.
Well, that sounds more scientific.
Yeah, it was helpful. And so shout out. I know we've made fun of a lot of these people, but free plug, Professor Dan Gilbert, Stumbling on Happiness. I found it very helpful. Right.
When you get down to it, I went along with the program for a while, and it's expensive. Back then, I don't know what they're trying to do. It was probably at least $300 an hour. I mean, for these people.
Inflation adjusted, that's not nothing.
And to be honest, if you're a child psychiatrist, it's open-ended.
Yeah.
My mom, she went, my understanding is to a psychiatrist and maybe my dad 5 times a week for decades, saying
a psychiatrist is one of these Freudian people.
No, a psychoanalyst. Yeah,
psychoanalyst.
Freudian,
So a psychiatrist is
but I think
so a Freudian psychoanalyst.
Yeah. But I think the idea is, and Freud might have been essentially some sort of a money-making thing to begin with, because your patient are in your thrall in a way.
Was Freud Jewish?
Yes.
Yes. It has nothing to do with the money-making. I'm just saying that,
But that's the other issue with this thing. Among 14 issues.
Yeah.
It's just open-ended. It's almost like there's no concept of an end date for this situation.
Right, or a treatment plan.
Right.
It's
no,
just talking about nipples
is
going to solve this.
First of all, when you're a 9-year-old, no one sat down and was like, you're going to go to this guy for 6 months and hopefully you'll get better. When you go to physical therapy for your back, it's not meant to be, right?
Yeah, there's like a timetable.
Forever.
Yeah.
And this is your brain, and there's no hard science, and there's nothing. So it's just this vague, like wishy-washy.
It's prone to abuse and money-making.
Yeah, and if you're a psychiatrist, like I said, if you are, and you see children, right?
Yeah.
What's the motivation for you to call they're paying the bills, the parents.
What is it? Oh, he's cured, so take him home.
There goes my 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like, there's my $300 on Fridays. Like, and that's the least of it, because I would see this other person like three times a week. It's like, it's a lifelong journey, you know? But at $200.
Okay. Yo, before we get shut down though by some group, so we're just talking about for psychoanalysis,
right?
And we're not Tom Cruise here saying all psychiatry is bad or meds are bad.
Right.
Shout out Invigorizify. Clearly, over 70% of the people I know are one med or the other. There's no stigma.
I mean, medication. I guess that's.
And I accept you for who you are.
Thank you.
Even when you're masturbating in the subway, it's uncomfortable when you look me in the eye, but I'll just move over and I'll be like, friends, just let him do this.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
People are always looking for ways to relieve anxiety and difficulties and obstacles and so forth. You mentioned you wanted to just bring up another method of this, right? You talk about psychics.
Well, on this topic,
yeah,
you know what is another scam potentially?
Yeah,
and is in New York City centric, classic New York City.
Yeah,
is psychics.
Right. Yes.
If you walk around, certainly downtown where we are, you'll see a storefront psychic on like every other block. Now, people say New York City is a faithless place, but I think that in New York, for a certain segment of the population, psychics are essentially a religion unto themselves. And I think, to some degree, they've been cracked down on or looked down on because there have been instances of them taking advantage,
right?
Like milking unsuspecting people.
Yes.
So much so that in New York, I'm just going to have to stop. That rustling is coming up in the mic.
Oh, sorry.
What were you doing?
That was my jacket, yeah.
That was an obsession thing.
No, that wasn't an obsession.
What were you...
I was looking for my phone for a second. Thought I left that outside.
Okay.
In my chair.
Yep. Judge Wapner. Okay. Back to our very special episode. In New York State, there's a penal code. Look it up on Google. All we do is spit facts on this show. New York State Penal Code number 165.35 on fortune telling. It's a misdemeanor punishable by 90 days in jail or a $500 fine for taking money for claimed or pretended use of occult powers to give advice, answer questions, or exercise, influence, or affect evil spirits or curses.
Wait, that's a criminal violation?
That's an actual statute.
That must be never enforced.
Well, no, I think it is when they catch these storefront psychics in Manhattan who find like an old guy who's trying to talk to his dead wife.
Right.
And they're like, okay, you need to like pay $50,000 so I can like get this spell potion stuff.
Well, they only come in and crack down probably when the guy who went in, his son.
His son is like, yeah, these people took $300,000 from my mom because like this psychic on Mulberry Street convinced her that she had a hex put on her and that they needed to remove the hex every Friday at 6 p.m. Right? She had to come in with $5,000 so they could do the hex removal spell. So really, it's fun. I mean, I think it just lines up with what you're talking about, the shrinks.
Yeah.
And then I'll take it one step further. Okay, what else pretends to protect you from evil spirits and guide you and give you advice?
Religion?
The Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Or Allah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Right.
Or Yahweh, as your people say.
Yeah, thanks.
It's all the same thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Dear God, block the devil and give me God's blessings. Right?
Right.
So isn't the church then subject to this penal code?
I guess,
because they take money in the offering, they pass the plate. Give your tithe and pray to Jesus, and He'll protect you from the devil.
But if you go to church, you can just stop in and not pay for something, right?
Yeah, but it's frowned upon, I think. They'll let you do it a couple times. Then someone's that usher dude, and I've had a lot of church in my life.
Yeah.
Just shout out Presbyterians.
They pass
No, but then there's like some guys like, may I take your name, friend? I don't want to be with these guys just like, oh, it's all crap. But I just want people to see that it's all the same. It's just difference of degree, not kind. The church, the temple, the mosque, the psychic, the psychoanalyst, and the self-help author. They're all just trying to give you advice on how to feel better or feel good about life.
Right.
Some of them are really in it for the money. Some of it's like for the money and it's a little bit of whatever. And some people they're really trying to help. I don't know.
Right. Some for some reason get a bad rap and some don't. Like some are looked down upon like psychics, and some are like Freudian psychoanalysts.
Yeah. I mean, when I walk by the psychics done for, it's hard to think that it's not a scam. But, maybe there's some out there that are really at least try to provide some advice.
No, that is definitely, the New York angle to that is if you don't live here and that's why you listen to this podcast to get a sense of the...
Yeah, don't go into the psychic storefront. They're not nice people.
But it is like we walked by one on the way here.
Yeah.
It's just a little storefront, and oftentimes there's like a woman usually.
Yep.
Although I saw the guy was sitting there smoking in there.
Yeah.
But and sitting behind a window, it's just like in a chair in like a room with like a red curtain kind of.
Yeah.
And another chair.
Yeah.
But
when the weather's nice, there's a folding chair outside.
Right, folding chair outside.
And she's either smoking or yelling into a cell phone.
He's on the phone all the time.
Yeah. Oh, wow, I feel spent right now.
Yeah. We can wrap it up. It's been an emotionally taxing episode.
Yeah, a very special episode.
I don't mean to shit on all this stuff because we have a sponsor.
Yeah.
So
Invigorizify.
So, Invigorizify. Check those guys out.
Yeah.
And it comes in a nice blue box.
Yep. Sent to your home directly. I mean, I think you need a prescription, but like these internet things have found a way around it. So, anything else you want to say?
I'm good. All right.
Okay. See you next week.
Okay, Bob.
Episode 10, motherfuckers! Well, that's the show, folks. Our theme song was performed by Echo Strada. He's an incredible Brooklyn-based artist creating psychedelic alternative music. Check him out on Spotify, Apple Music, and iTunes.
Central Park trees covered in snow. Over the Hudson, the sunset glow. The smell of halal and jasmine rice. A creep on the corner, don't look so nice. Now he's pooping, why I don't know. Life's full of mysteries, now it's time for the show.
That was fucking awesome!
That was all right.
Yes!